So in
Right.
like this waiting room area, do you feel like you ever fully became your soul self, or did you feel like you were still living out of that ego, that previous life ego or
I would
personality?
say, I would say, I definitely was living out that ego, that personality, especially when I met Jesus, because I'm still like, okay, get me to earth, Jesus, you can do it. I know it. Um, yes, I would have changed a few things because obviously I know death is real. I don't know if I was an agnostic or atheist. I just didn't care. I was focused on me and my husband and my house.
Start it again. Okay, so your story, there's a few things that, I've seen you on other podcasts.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of this I have heard, but there were some things, and I love when this happens, that I hadn't heard and you kind of added them. And all together, like you have one of the most, and I am somebody, I'm telling you, I have been researching these for years now, since my last awakening, so at least 4 or 5 years now. And every night I go to sleep reading NDEs and STEs and stuff like that, at least 5, 10 a day. Like I am a absolute like I don't want to say fanatic, but I say I'm researching, right? So
Yeah.
you have some aspects of your story that are so important for everyone to know. And
Yeah.
I am hoping that after this interview, because I know people check around, whatever, they will see you and then you can have, you get more exposure
Oh, yeah.
because your story is one that has to be analyzed for sure. Like there are some aspects that I'm telling you, whether you know it or not, they are spectacular. And I'm saying this
Thank
from
you.
someone who's seen a lot and heard a lot. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So I have a lot of questions already. So let me just jump straight into them.
Okay.
So, and you might have answered some of these, but you mentioned around 20 in your 20s is when you got the memories back of
Yeah.
the previous life. And so that people understand, like, this is a pre-birth experience and mostly like a death experience. And a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
NDEs, we're talking about people who are alive and they're going into the process of they think they're about to die, but they're being told usually at the end of that tunnel, at that light, you're not finished, you got more stuff to do, go back. So
Mm-hmm.
you had the experience where you're just there. You see clouds and guides. Now, so the first question is, do you know exactly when, like, was it just a one day where all of a sudden these images started coming back to you, or was it just gradual, like through dreams? Like, how exactly did these memories return?
Uh, Gradually through my life, it was like I remember that. And I'm always trying to recall things in my mind. I used to think in the past quite a lot, as I've discovered. So I guess my problem was I was never in the now. As people say, I was always worried about the future or remembering the past and trying to recollect my childhood memories. I remember when I was a kid, I was laying out on the sky and I was like, I swear I remember tanning on the beach and being an adult and being in relationships, but how could I possibly know that as a 5, 6 year old kid?
Mm,
So also, when my mom and my dad were having trouble, they did end up staying together throughout their marriage and everything. And my dad ended up passing away when I was 22, but he um, he and my mother had split when I was 4, and she was so stressed out about it. I remember her ironing shirts, and we had just moved into a government housing apartment. And I was sitting on the stairs, and my entire family was there. And she's just going on and on about how he abandoned us and all this other stuff. And so I said, Mom, you can just get me a new dad. It's fine. And she yelled at me and was like, No, that's your dad. And I was just like, well, if you want to suffer through this nonsense, then go ahead. Like, I just knew more. Like, okay, this man is acting up. You need to find somebody else,
hmm.
as a 4 year old.
Oh
So
my
I'm
goodness.
saying, yeah. So I'm saying, how would I know that? That
Hmm.
you see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a sibling who had experiences where he remembered a whole life and at the age of like 2 or 3, and it gradually starts to go away. So people don't understand, like for me, reincarnation is no longer even a slight question. Like when people don't believe it, I actually look at them like, how are you like functioning?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
this is such a truth.
yeah.
Um, okay, so gradually they came back to you. So in the previous life, and I wish we had a name because it sounds like she really was a, like a
I know.
great,
I really don't know.
yeah.
I seriously don't. I
Yeah.
literally tried to remember. I just know that she was an Aries. I also know that she was around 30 something because
Hmm.
I think it was either 32, 34, something like that. I definitely remember it was before 35 because it was I kept saying early 30s. Like while I was up there with Jesus.
Hmm.
Um when he said 30 years, I was like, okay, just like last time. It kind of like, why do I got to die in my 30s or something?
Yeah. So you're in a space where it's like cloudy, right? So like probably bright and cloudy. I've heard that,
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And then you automatically seem to know who guides were because you said I need to speak to a guide. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Or
Yeah.
okay,
Because the other people looked just like light beings, but the guides wore the robes.
okay.
So, and you could feel them. Like other people are just there, but they had authority somehow.
Hmm.
But you just knew it when you interacted with them.
So certain knowings were coming to you automatically, like as time progressed, because
Yep.
that's what I've learned as well.
Yep.
Um, because I'm assuming that as a 30 something, whoever, female that you were before, you weren't like, oh my guys, like you doesn't sound like you were that kind of person where you're like, oh, let me go speak to my. It wasn't something that you knew, correct?
At
Or
all. At all.
at
I
all.
was I was
Wow.
not religious. I was not I seriously was focusing on working out. I remember a gym bag and stuff. Like I
Wow.
remember working out and being so mad. How can you abandon me when I do everything? I work, I make money, I look good, like, in that life.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
can you cheat on me? I think it's because I was kind of controlling, which I can guarantee I was controlling. But so yeah. So I think maybe it's like the rebellion. Oh, you're controlling me, so I'm gonna rebel against you. I really don't know if it was that dynamic, but I can tell you that I think I was kind of moody and controlling and maybe a little greedy.
Hmm.
So
It sounds like a very materialistic, like ego type personality, right?
yep.
And that's why I was like, as you were telling your story, I always kind of wondered, are you fully, do you feel at any point while you were in that space? So we'll call it the I mean, what would like the waiting room. Some people kind of say like the waiting room if you weren't fully in heaven or anywhere. So in
Right.
like this waiting room area, do you feel like you ever fully became your soul self, or did you feel like you were still living out of that ego, that previous life ego or
I would
personality?
say I would say I definitely was living out that ego, that personality, especially when I met Jesus, because I'm still like, okay, get me to earth, Jesus, you can do it. I know it. Um, yes, I would have changed a few things because obviously I know death is real. I don't know if I was an agnostic or atheist. I just didn't care. I was focused on me and my husband and my house. Um, so when I watched the film and everything, I do feel like I was becoming more of my own self and less of that previous ego. And then especially when I watched the new person, I felt like, oh, I'm totally different from this person. I had no ego attachment. I just had empathy because she was getting cheated on and I knew what that felt like. But that's the extent of it. I'm pretty sure that was the most like whole being I was. Plus, I was surrounded by it was a literal constant sound, like a constant buzzing that made you feel good at all times when you could listen to it, when you calmed yourself. Yeah.
I'm telling you, your experience, like people just don't understand. Like I'm getting goosebumps because of so much of it are things that I have read in all the like intricate NDEs, like ones people probably haven't even read before. I've read and I'm hearing about this buzzing and I'm hearing about this peaceful feeling. And also, and I mean, for me, know that I am somewhat of a conspiracy theorist. So like there are going to be times I'm going to ask you questions that you're just like, okay, like
Oh, I don't care. You can
where is
ask
she
me
going
whatever.
with this? Where is she going with this? But I am very, very much, skeptical in regards to some of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I'm also protective of us as spirits. So just know that I'm not in any way, I'm not coming
Oh,
at it.
yeah.
I'm coming at it like I want to make sure that this was really Jesus, that you really had to come back, like that's how I
Yeah.
am. So
Oh, yeah. I get it.
okay, because there are people who say they had that feeling where it's like and it's a good thing. Like people say, oh, I felt the unconditional love, I felt the peace. This is a good thing, especially when you're in a traumatic situation of process of dying. You want to feel that, but it almost feels like it is something that is not. I don't want to say artificial because it's, it's outside of the earth realm, but it's not. It's something that is being placed on you, and a lot of what I've heard outside of this realm is vibration. That's why I'm so into frequencies and stuff, so that there might actually be something that's being placed on you that is either inducing a feeling of unconditional love, of peace, and your experience is expressing exactly what I've kind of been
Yeah.
kind of
In
figuring
that
out.
area, in that area, Jesus literally told me there are no tears in heaven. That's what he said, no tears in heaven. So I must have been either on the outskirts of heaven or something, because he referenced it as heaven, but it looked
Mm,
plain to me. There was no buildings, there were just some souls,
mm,
and it was clouds below and clouds above and just some space. No, nothing. Um, but when he said there are no tears in heaven, it was like he said it as a command over me. And then my tears stopped and I was like, okay. It was kind of like when you tell a child that's enough and they're like, what do you mean? And it gets them to like think, I got to listen. And then all of a
mm.
sudden, just all that emotion drained from me. And that's when I heard like a constant hum noise. And when I heard it, it like touched my heart. And I was like, oh, that's peace. Oh, wow. Like I didn't even, I was like, wow, that was going on while I'm over here. Where's my husband and where's Earth? The whole
Wow.
time I couldn't
Yeah.
hear, I couldn't hear it at all because of how chaotic I was. But as soon as I stopped, that's when the noise came and I could hear it and feel it. So I wasn't
Mm.
chaotic anymore. I really was. That's why those guides said, we need to get him. And I was like, get him,
Get the big
you know?
dog. We need the manager here because this one is.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm still that way to an extent, or maybe all the way. But anyway,
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. And I love your personality is awesome, especially being your personality in these settings is what, like I said, people have to hear your story because, you really show that we are still ourselves to some
yeah,
extent, for
yeah.
sure.
Thank
Um,
you.
and you're very inquisitive, so it also helps as well because you were paying attention. Like some people might just be like, okay, flying around, but you're paying attention, like, oh, I passed the wall of China, so
I did. I
I
was,
love it.
and then I was like, how did I pass that when I came to Africa? And then we went
Mm,
we went to the right. And I remember like the sun setting behind me and it was just so cool. I mean, really. And
yes.
I know I went over the Pacific Ocean and coming to California and because I was like, this is the USA.
Mm,
It was just so cool. I
yeah.
remember. And I really think everywhere has a vibe to it too. Because I kind of remember feeling China, feeling the United States, like
Wow.
really. So it's like a knowledge when you're there that you just know. But I literally, you could have probably counted to between 4 and 10, and from California to Mishawaka, Indiana, that's how long it took. Like
Yes.
seconds.
Yes.
Amazing.
I love that you say that there's a vibe to everything, and like people really need to understand that everything, like Tesla said, is like energy and frequency and
Yeah.
sound. It really is.
Hmm.
Um, and it also shows you like as we're sitting here, there is so much happening around us that we are just completely, blissfully unaware of because otherwise we wouldn't really be freaking out.
Yeah.
Um, but just people flying around, that car going through Jesus, like you
Yeah.
literally somebody drove through Jesus. What is
Yeah.
going on? Like,
Yeah.
and they
Yes.
had no clue, no clue.
No.
So we have no idea what's happening around us, because it's levels, dimensions,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and it also helps us to focus. Like we would not be able to focus at all if we're seeing things flying around and whizzing by, and Jesus like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm in my bathroom, like.
Yes. Yes.
So all right. So getting back to this, so at one point okay. So what did the guides look like? Do you remember, or was it
Um,
just
I
like
re
light?
I just remember mostly that they looked humanoid, but they had the white robes and stuff. But I was more so frantic. Um, get me to Earth. I don't care who you are or whatever. Just get me to my husband. I'm literally looking around a lot, but I don't ever fully turn around. I don't know where Earth is, and I'm panicked. It was not too long until I saw Jesus, and then I just wanted to focus on him. He's so powerful, full of love, peace, everything, and he has all the knowledge. Like, you want to know something, that's you just talk to him. It felt
Mm.
like obviously there was no time, but with Jesus, I didn't care about anything else. I was like, wow, I'm here. Okay. And it's just him and me. And he was so focused on me because
Mm.
of how I was acting. I mean, you know, the guides were like, we need to get him. So,
Okay, okay. So the question that one of the guys asked you was, "You're from Earth, right?" And
yes.
just those words right there just show us that like extraterrestrials, aliens, it's real. Like there are numerous planets with life, teeming
Yeah,
with life, in numerous
that's what I thought
galaxies.
too. And
Like,
I didn't want to ask him anything because I didn't want to get shown. I had that feeling if you ask, you get shown things. I just had that feeling. All I
mhm.
wanted to do was get back to that body. I did not care about anything else. Not anything else. I'm like, I worked too hard for that life. I'm making good
Wow.
money. I worked out. I ate well. I looked good. I'm not done, you know? So so really, when he said you're from Earth, right? I literally was like, yeah, like don't ask me anything else. Yes, yes, like get me my body, tell me how to get there, whatever. I didn't want to know about anything else because I literally felt like if I would have said, "Oh, well, what are there people on Jupiter?" I probably would have been shown people on Jupiter or something. I
Oh
just
yeah.
didn't want to. I didn't want to.
I mean, it almost feels like a movie. I feel like I'm watching a movie when you're talking about this character because it's like if you think about it, and this is what I think why so many like spiritual people or like leaders or gurus, etc., talk about how we have to detach from the body and the
Yeah,
ego. There's others who say leave the ego alone. Like you need it, and I think you do need it to some extent to get through this life. But if you get so attached, if you're that materialistic, if you're that so this is me and this is my
hmm,
experience, then I'm surprised that that being didn't become a ghost. Like that's how ghosts are created. Like if you had not immediately, been for however from that accident straight up to heaven, then you would have been following your husband around and probably slapping up the other woman. Like,
yeah. I guarantee I would have. Uh-huh. Guarantee.
like who is this? And now you know why this stuff happens in some of these houses. You would have to have moved seriously, because
Yes.
you would have been stuck. Like you would literally been a lost soul stuck on this plane because you couldn't get over that life and you wanted
Yeah.
to find a way back in.
I
And
and
that
I've
says a
heard of it.
lot.
Yes, I've heard of attachments doing that kind of stuff to us. And I mean, here I am in a place where I could have seen past relatives or past people. I do know that when I first got there and I saw those two souls and they were talking amongst each other and then they saw me, oh hi, how are you? And I'm like, oh wait, I do know you. How do I know you? And then I saw them into their suits, like what they were wearing. And
Hmm.
I was like, I know you from somewhere. And then I'm like, I don't even want to get into that. Where's my husband? Like, I just can't. I want that man. How ridiculous. But anyway,
I almost wonder because one of my other questions was like, okay, so because again, your story is very unique, very, very unique. I am used to the person who semi passes, the body is still something that they can get into and work out, who goes through this tunnel, the black tunnel. They get to the end. Most are just pushed back right back from there. They see the light. They can't get close. But some do get through that light. And when they get through that light, they feel that they are with God. This
hmm,
is usually just a light, or sometimes they do see it like as Jesus or a being, but usually just light. And then they start seeing all their past relatives, and some that are alive too, which is very weird. So it just shows that we have another part of us or aspect of us that is always in heaven. So like they'll see people even who are currently alive. But you start kind of reconnecting with everybody. It's like a big party. And so I
yeah,
was like, why didn't that happen for you? But I'm glad you mentioned that because it looks like you were going in that direction,
yeah,
of
yeah,
possibly having that moment, but you were just so tied to that previous life. You're like, no, I don't care what you guys are doing. I don't care about the party. Turn
yeah,
everything down. Let me
yeah.
get back.
Yeah, because I remember the two of them and there were others behind them. But literally, once they formed, I knew I could trust them. And I said, how do I get back to Earth? And they said, you just talk to that guide over there. And they were pointing to the guide. And so I went right to him. I was like, thanks, guys. Anyway, see you later. right to the guy. So I didn't care about anybody else. I saw other people coming toward me, but I was like, I'm out of here. So
You are hilarious. Okay, hilarious. Oh my God. I don't think I've ever heard anything like this. This is awesome. I love it. Because in this process is showing us a lot about what happens on the other side. It really is. All
yeah,
right, so let's move forward because this is something that I've seen a lot of, and I have big questions marks about it. We're not going to figure it out here, but I'm just letting you know that I have heard about this stadium of light beings before.
oh yeah,
Yes, many times before. And I have, on one hand, okay, is it this entourage or well, okay, you tell me what you think it is first. Tell me what you think that stadium was.
sure. So Jesus came out of that room, but I didn't know it was Jesus at first. So like I'm literally in nowhere, uh, talking to the two guides who are getting him, and this space opens up, and that's when I saw a light orb come out toward me, and behind him was, I don't know, thousands or millions of people inside there, and I knew I'm not allowed. I just knew it. I'm not holy enough to get in there. I'm not worthy. Not because I felt like I'm not worthy, I just knew it. I knew that I wouldn't be able to get in there. And I did feel like it was actual human souls, ones that are worthy to be with the Lord. And they were all kind of like singing because I could just hear something in there, but I was also kind of like, who's this orb approaching and what is that? Like it's just everything at once.
Mm,
Um, and it just full of light in there. They looked like little lights in rows. So it just looked very organized, a holy room that I was not allowed to go in.
mm.
And as this being approached me, I just felt more and more like the power coming toward me. So then my interest in the room faded, and I'm more concentrated on who is this approaching me and will they send me to my husband? So stuck on that, man.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so yeah, so I mean, this is just something to really jog, I guess, my thinking abilities because I don't know that we have an answer. Actually, I know that we don't have an answer to what that is.
Yeah,
But my gut again, because I'm such a conspiracy theorist, my first thought just goes to like I I really do question what that really, really, really is because I've heard on one hand, there's people who meet the light and it's just the light. So they won't even say it's like Jesus or this or that, whatever. They just feel like this
yeah,
is the creator of all, right?
yep,
And they just feel love. Without question, love is it. Apparently you read enough NDEs, after a while I'm like, okay, love, love. Okay, another
yeah,
love.
yeah,
It becomes the same way reincarnation to me is truth, love is truth, and
yeah,
God being love is truth. Then the only reason why I start to have question marks is because I have had people who have had experiences where they express that we as spirits or sparks of the divine, there are people on the other side because of the lives they live and the things that they've done, they are more advanced than others, that there actually is, while they don't really have a class system because that would of course not be holy or heavenly, there are people who are brighter lights. Go
yes,
ahead.
I would agree with that. And I totally remembered, I forgot this part in my story. Um, there was, so when I had the review of my future life and I was talking to Jesus about it, didn't want to go, whatever. We were talking about that life, like how come I have to do it and all this other stuff. This guy came between us. This is before I even went to Earth. He came from that direction from Earth, but I didn't realize that was where Earth was at all. Okay. So he's approaching, he had dark hair. He looked like a human being, like a
Mhm.
regular human being. And I was like, what? And I knew, like, where are you at? Like, this is my interrogation. How come you're showing up? Like, what is
Mhm.
happening here? He walked right past all of us, went right past that, like, vision of whatever future life this is, opened some kind of portal and walked through. And he was just like, and I'm like, he's going to heaven. And then it
Mm,
closed on him and he went to a different dimension where there was grass and trees, and I knew he went to a peaceful place. And I said, how
mm,
come he can do that and I can't? why is his work done and mine isn't? But I felt like he deserved where he was going.
Hmm.
Um, his vibe matched it. It was almost like he expected it. He didn't even, but the weird thing is, he didn't look at any of us and say, "Who are you?" or anything. He went
He didn't.
straight to whatever it was that he was looking at, went
Hmm.
into that place and was happy. And I mean, that was the last I saw of that man.
Yeah.
But I said, I want to go where he's going. And then Jesus said, you need to live the life, like this life.
Almost as if he didn't even see you guys. Like it was just,
Yeah, not at
yeah.
all. And
And
the weird thing is he didn't even see Jesus. He didn't see any of us. He went straight to that place. But I
and
think he deserved it. Like his vibe matched that place.
and so like I said, your story is beautiful because this right here, this moment that we're talking about right here is what keeps me up at night and what makes me try to figure it out because there are people who, so we're going to have two different situations. So it really could be that people who have lived a quote unquote better life, quote unquote, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that they are going, and I mean, I don't want to put too much in here because I'm going to be adding stuff that's not there, but let's just say when they see that tunnel, right? There are times, just so I can put it out there so people understand, when they see the tunnel, the black tunnel, sometimes it has color around it, sometimes it's gray. So it's usually those three colors that I've heard of the tunnel being. There are people who feel hands coming at them, like trying to grab at them, or dark demonic energies trying
Yeah.
to get at them. So I've heard that a lot of times, not all the time. Sometimes it's just a black tunnel and they just are just swimming through to that light at the end of it. So
Yeah.
I wonder sometimes if people, because then you have certain groups, I feel like the Buddhists might be someone, a group that believes this, that kind of says that there are a lot of, not to say holograms, but visions or false visions, I guess, or things that will come at you in the afterlife and you have to kind of ignore them. Like there are things that you really have to just kind of focus on that light, maybe just keep looking at the light and enter the light. And that
Mm-hmm.
this moment made me think of that because I mean that we have to separate you from the previous, right? Because it was a different life. So if the
Sure.
previous one was very driven, very much into trying to get back to that life, maybe that energy is what might allow. This is assuming the dark side. We're going to go to the positive
That's
story of
fine.
this, right? So
Mm-hmm.
say that this being maybe wasn't Jesus or was one of these archons that's just trying to feed on energy, et cetera. Because that story does really kind of mesh with what I'm hearing here. If that's the case, then it can only get the ones that are still tied to that body and still tied to the earth, as opposed to that soul that just knows, okay, I'm going back to God, and goes
Right.
into that heavenly space. On the other hand, so that's one possibility. On the other hand, it really could be that if we are not, like you said, the vibe, his vibe felt like it matched. You mentioned that, and that is something I
Yeah.
keep hearing. That
Yeah.
literally, and it's not like a vibe like, oh, I'm just gonna go do yoga and then kill people on the weekends. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. The vibe doesn't lie,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
vibe doesn't lie. So like if you have lived a life where it's like if it's a balance, you are more good than not, then I think that's the person who they probably won't see anything. They're really just going to be going down that tunnel. They're going to see the light. They're going to enter it and reconnect to God and be one again with God. But for those who maybe have lived a life that they didn't, then maybe that vibe won't mesh up, and then they'll have to do another life until they figure it out. But I've heard just so, I mean, again, who knows? Because I've heard so many stories where people say that this is not a trap. There's nothing trappy about this. That um, you judge your own life, and you prove that. You said that you were
Yeah.
asked to judge your life. You judge
Yeah.
your life, and you decide if you are ready to move past this cycle of reincarnation. Could be thousands of
Well,
lives.
I did not want to come back. Like if I would have been asked, "Do you want to stay and go to heaven?" Yes, would have been the answer because that life was over. I could not go back. The husband, even if I would have gone back, would have stayed with that girlfriend. So like it was pointless to me. The whole reason I wanted the whole kit and caboodle. Like I wanted to be with that man, live in the house, all that stuff. And so since he was out of the picture, I'm like, well, forget it then. Okay, let's just go to heaven now. No big deal. And I couldn't go there. I really wanted to. That's another reason why I was angry that I saw that man go. And I'm like, he went, that's where I want to go. How do I get there? And they said I couldn't go.
And so that's where I have another question too. And like I said, I believe both at the same time. Like I have no definitive idea here.
Yeah.
This you were bringing up a lot of questions that clearly all of us have, but I really, really have, and it hasn't given me an
Oh,
answer yet.
I get it. I get it.
Thank you. But
Hmm.
so is it that you as a soul, like if because there are people, let's just say this. Let me just switch you with somebody else, or maybe even
Sure,
three people. Let's get really interesting here. So
sure.
let's take a previous president, and without going too into politics, but a previous president who just thinks that they can do whatever the heck they want. Like literally, if they were in that situation, that they die tomorrow, they're in front of Jesus, they're looking at their life and they're looking at some really horrid things they did, and he's like, judge it, and they're like, oh, that's all right. Okay, well, I did that because of this. No, I'm good. I'm good. There's people like that, right? Who no matter what they do wrong, they see nothing wrong with it. How do you think that that would have gone down in that situation if you switched that person in?
Well, for me, I know when I was up there, remember the first thing I said, well, she had a good heart. And I felt instantly Jesus was like, that's not it. Like, you're not done talking here. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, she meant well. Um, I could have done better. I could have done a lot better. Like, it was like, okay. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
the truth came out slowly, but I couldn't stop talking about it either. Like, I knew he was looking for me to tell the truth, and I could not embellish it. There was
Mm-hmm.
really no point in embellishing it either. He saw the whole thing. Literally, if you took my memory, my eyesight, and put it on a screen, that's what he saw. He saw
Mm-hmm.
every interaction face to face, intimate moments when I ate, just all of it,
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing.
And now there are other people, and I'm trying not to mention names at all, but there are other people who believe, who have gone to the other, not to say the other side, who do OBEs frequently and
Uh-huh.
feel like they have seen all the different dimensions, they have seen everything that there is on the other side, and who believe that we as humans are disempowered because we don't understand who we are and what's really happening, in I guess reality, the reality of reality. And they would say that I feel like that person, I'm just trying to kind of be the devil's advocate here, that that person would say that this potentially could have just been one of those, I guess you would call it a demigod or just a very powerful other being who, yeah, I'm just going to go out and just tell you, just so I can just, you can maybe just say, no, I don't know, I didn't feel that. But there's what I've noticed a lot of times that there is a being or several beings that get their power from people praising them. Like there's power in that there's power through praise,
Yep.
and there's also power through what they call the loosh, like through negative emotion. So like when we're depressed or this or that, whatever, all that negative energy, there are certain beings that actually eat that, like almost like vampires. And that's where the whole premise of the like soul trap and Earth being a prison is that if somebody does not know how to get from death straight to heaven, like to go back to their natural state, that these beings are able to kind of capture them and get them back here, like through coercion and
Yeah.
manipulation.
Now, when I was up there, I didn't feel demons until Jesus showed me, warned me about the girls in the bedroom. I
Mm,
literally felt like there were little imps or little demons surrounding me. And I was
mm,
like, what's going on here? Like I literally asked that and he said drugs. And I said, drugs, I know drugs. But the only other time when I was up there, I didn't feel any bad spirits, nothing like that.
mm,
Jesus definitely had all the power. I still don't understand why I had to come back and who I am, but I would rather do this than have gone to hell. I can't say that I wouldn't. I don't know because
yeah,
I told you I wasn't religious. I didn't really care about stuff other than working out, making my money,
yeah,
and my husband. But so I'm pretty sure I was selfish. And so those kind of things, I mean, I've watched some near death experiences too, and some people say Jesus asked them, "What did you do for your fellow man?" Well, in that life, I don't think I did anything for anybody but me.
mm,
Um, I have seen demons here as Angela Comfort. Um,
Mm.
like when I woke up from a bad dream. So I do understand that they can manipulate energy. They force you to feel bad sometimes so they can do what you said, the loosh or whatever. I don't know what you
Yeah,
called it. But
yeah.
but they do that. I've seen them. Like um the way I saw the one that was floating above me, he I know it was a him. He had yellow eyes, which you I thought he would have slits for eyes, but they were yellow round pupils. He
Mm.
had very wrinkly skin. His skin was gray. He had pointy ears, very sharp teeth, and you know I'm not sure if you're familiar, the bank tellers of
Harry
the movie.
Potter. I
Yeah,
I love Harry Potter, so yes, I'm there.
they look like that, but little skinny little things.
Wow,
Yes, like a mixture between Dobie and the Harry Potter bank tellers. So
wow.
like the wickedness of the bank tellers with the pointy ears and everything. He had
Yeah.
a really long nose and he had really thin fingers and long nails. He had his well, he had no hair, but he had his ears facing me like this. So I don't
Mm.
know if he was doing something telepathically to me or if he was just making fun of me, but
Mm.
he was above me. He literally was pretty close to me. So when I woke up, I saw him, and I mean, I saw him as at, like my hand, but it was see through, but like solid. I mean, I saw the wrinkles and everything.
You were
And
good because I would have been screaming at the top of my lungs.
well, I was just like, I was like, wow. And he literally he had a face like he wrinkled his nose, is showing him his teeth. He was looking nasty at me. And when I saw him, he went like kind of like, and he said she sees me telepathically to somebody. And
Mm.
so then we were staring at each other and I remember looking at one eye and then the other eye and until I said then the fear from him, the hatred, I could just feel it all. And I said Jesus, and he went like he literally panicked when I said his name and I said Jesus, Yeshua, and so he disappeared and two other ones
Mm.
behind him disappeared. I have a picture of him. My daughter and I were wrestling around and I was like goofing off and I was like getting pictures of her and I together and I was looking through the pictures and I was like, what the hell is that? And I actually have it. I can send it to you if you
What?
want. Yeah, you can
So wait,
actually.
so what? Why do you think? Okay, so this is on two separate occasions. Why is he hanging around?
Well, the first time was to bother me because I was very suicidal back then. Remember that guy I was talking about, how Jesus told me he would hurt me? This was in that era of time. The guy
Wow.
wasn't interested. I was desperate. I was getting readings from people, like trying to remember. Well, I know that Jesus said my husband comes later, but I was thinking he meant that guy comes later. Like we get together and become married later. I
Mm.
was manipulating myself.
Yeah.
So, but within because that happened in 2017, I think it was June or July when I woke up from the bad dream. It was a bad
Mm.
dream involving a snake, a beetle, and a spider. So I mean, like it was just weird stuff, right? And then I
Mm.
woke up and there that thing was. Well, summer of 2020, same time, actually, yeah, same time frame that I had that warning at the apartment with my friend. Like if you continue
Mm.
down this path, um, that is when I got the picture. And my 10-year-old daughter was suicidal at that time. So it was
Oh
a suicide
wow.
demon bothering both of us because,
Wow.
yeah,
I mean, I'm getting goosebumps, Angela. Like you don't know, like you're amazing. Because,
he,
and I love that people are starting to get comfortable saying this stuff. Like my grandmother, like she was from the South, so all she talked about was this demon and that Hindra demon, and we kind of look at
yeah,
her like this woman, what is wrong with this woman, And as I'm
yeah,
getting older, I'm realizing that woman knew everything. Like she was
yeah,
on point. And they
yeah,
literally are different types. Like they have and I'm saying this, and it's so important that we stay in this for a second so that people understand. And I try to say this if I have, because I mean, I definitely suffered from, from depression throughout my life. There was
Yep.
some years where it finally went away. Like I have a frequency that actually helps, and it's like I could not get depressed no matter what I did. But I'm in a situation now that's like I wouldn't say I'm getting depressed, but just I'm starting to feel sad again, which is very weird because it's been years where I didn't. But I have to
Hmm.
remind myself that there are actual like demons who like eat off of that. They suck like the mentors. They suck that energy. And so
Yes,
they
I do.
love as soon as you open up a little idea, that one little tiny idea or
Yep.
that one little incident or situation that can create that energy, they are on it. They are on you
Yep.
like glue, you know?
And
And if
I totally agree with that. Yep. But the thing is too, this this demon, I call him an imp, he showed absolute terror when I just said Jesus. Like
mm,
literally. Because he at first he was like this, giving me the nastiest look ever. Then he was
mm,
like showing confusion and backed away. His mouth was open, showing his teeth, and then he kind of closed it. And then that's when we were looking back and forth in each other's eyes. And when I started feeling him, I don't know if he was reading me or what, I don't know, but like terror started coming in me, and that's when I said Jesus, and he went like literally his mouth
mm.
dropped, like, and I was like Jesus Yeshua, because I realized that they cannot stand that name at
Yes.
all.
And I've noticed that, and like I'm not Christian, I wasn't even born Christian, but I have heard this so many times that there's no denying it.
Yeah.
I like that you said Jesus and then you said Yeshua because I my confusion becomes where the name Jesus, and I was saying this to somebody recently, the name Jesus isn't actually a form of Yeshua at all. Like it really is something that is like,
Yeah.
where did it come from? So
Right.
I kind of question, okay, what is that? I do have a whole research that I'm doing on that, but it seems to not even matter. Like whether you said Yeshua or Jesus or
Yeah.
God, maybe it's like the person I was talking to when I was mentioning this said, I think it's just the intent. Like
Yep.
if you have like if you have the intent that you're calling on a higher power, our God or creator, that terrifies them. I mean, terrifies them. They have no power against it. They disappear. Yeah.
Well, I think because it helps me. I met Jesus before, obviously. So the person I thought of when I saw that thing and I was like, Jesus, I thought of him.
Hmm.
So even though I said Jesus, Yeshua, I said it back and forth. It was my intention, like, save me from this thing, because there's nothing I could have done. I know that there was nothing. And I mean, I don't know what that thing was there for other than to give me a bad dream or try to make me commit suicide, because I'm telling you, I was really suicidal back then.
Hmm.
Um, but obviously not anymore. I do like this
Yes.
life like Jesus told me I would. And I'm
Good.
begging him every day, let me live longer.
And we need you. I mean, like you're helping even just by telling the story. 100% you are a light here. So we like stay with us. So I do wonder if because like I was saying, so like I do have questions. I go back over these things and I wonder, but do you feel like in that space of in that, in the heavenly space, do you feel like your feelings were accurate? Like you could trust your feelings of things, of who people were and what was going on?
Yes, because I remember even the guide with the clipboard. I knew he had authority over me. And whether, because if he would have said, oh, yeah, your life, you can still live it, you can go this way or what, I knew that he was honest about it. I knew
Mhm.
that he said that life is over. I got angry though. Like, I didn't want to listen to him after he told me I couldn't do what I wanted to do. But I didn't feel ill intent from him. He was just like, I told you.
Mm.
End of story. He left me alone. He wasn't chasing me down. No, you can't go that way. You gotta. He didn't. He left me alone. And
Yeah.
that's when I was so panicked. I went up to the other two and I was like, you got to get me to Earth. You got to get me to Earth. And I don't want to be here. And they were just kind of confused why I didn't want to be here. And I'm like, I have a husband. I just need to go back. Like, just stop. I just need to go. And that's when they were like, we got to get him.
Now, now I'm starting to wonder also, like, if you hadn't made such a fuss, because you kind of literally like call the manager, but if you hadn't made a fuss about going back, do you feel like you would have just stayed in heaven, that you would not have been pushed into another life?
Maybe because I was so attached to that life. I wonder that question. I really wonder.
That's what I'm
Definitely.
starting to wonder as well. Like, I mean, like I said, it's a lot of questions. I have no answers. It's definitely
Yeah,
just more
because
questions.
I mean, when I first got there, my friends, whoever they were, I call them the 1800s people because that's what they turned into. They turned
Yeah,
into these, and I was like, I recognize you.
yeah.
Um, kind of off subject, but I've had dreams of riding a penny farthing in that era. A penny farthing is one of those bikes with a huge front wheel and a tiny small back wheel.
I didn't know what it was. Thank you.
Yeah. And I fell off in the dream and I really got injured or something. And then I woke up and like, wow, that was weird. So I kind of, I wonder if they were from that life or if that was
Wow,
just a dream. I don't know. But
wow,
they were there and I felt love from them. They genuinely cared for me. They were
wow.
so happy to see me. And I was happy to see them too, but I was kind of confused still. Like I didn't quite know who they were, but at the
Mm,
same time, I knew like, where's my husband? I need to get to my body. Like my body
mm,
is going to die. I've got to save it. If I'm in my body, it will not die. So,
mm.
so as much as I care about you guys, great to see you. Where do I go? So I think though, if I wasn't attached, I could have been enjoying the moment, got to know other people, and maybe I would have been at that vibe where that guy was and went to that heaven because I did see it. I did see the grass and the trees and stuff, but I was not allowed to go there. And I don't know if it's because I was upset that I had to go back and be another human or or what. Because by then I was done with that previous life. I no more husband, I don't want him anymore. Now I'm like, I don't want this life either though. Like I thought I had already gone through all that. Why do I need to go through it again? I literally said I don't get it. Like why?
Mm.
Why do I have to do this again? Like you're making me suffer the same way as I did before. I don't get it. I can't go through. I literally remember touching my chest saying, I can't go through another heartache like that. I just can't do it, you know?
Yeah. Tell you, this is so beautiful. Like I've gotten goosebumps the whole time because I'm still stuck in the middle where I don't know which one it is, but either one, like it's starting to sound more like and I want it to be the best case scenario. Like I don't want it to be where we just have all this trauma and stress and scary monsters on this planet, and then we also have it outside of this. You know what I mean? But I
Yes.
mean, the more I learn, I'm kind of like, okay, I think we still got more levels to go. Like I think that it doesn't get that
Yeah.
much better. But on the other hand, when you're telling me that you felt love from them, right? You felt genuine love from these people,
Yep.
and just a quick aside, like um what you're saying is totally accurate from what I've read is that we are light beings, but we can take on a form, you know? And that's also
Yeah.
why I question a lot of what people see in NDEs because it sounds like we all are kind of shapeshifters, but they
Yeah.
took on the form of the 1800 people so that you can remember who they were, like, hey, it's me, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
So that's
And
pretty cool.
it was like I felt them, I knew them, but I was like, how do I know you? And then when they transformed into wearing those outfits, I was like,
Mm.
oh, okay, now that I know you, can you please help me? Like like I can
Yes.
trust you. I know you'll tell me where to go.
But and so at the same time, while on one hand I'm just like, okay, maybe she got duped, and maybe that was like, this a shapeshifter. It wasn't really Jesus because I've had some NDEs where I promise you it was not Jesus. Like everybody who's listening to the NDE is like, okay, you got duped, you know. But sometimes it is where it's just like it's Jesus. But um, the reason why I'm starting to wonder is because it sounds like you possibly had the chance, like like we're trying to figure out, is that you had the chance to go straight to heaven,
Yeah.
but because you hadn't learned the lesson from that previous
Yeah.
life, like you literally, because I mean, think about it, you're saying that this current life, and it sounds like you already learned a lesson, like you passed that, and that's why you're still alive and with us, you know. But it sounds like up until 30, you had to finally get past that and learn that lesson so that you can move forward. And so,
Yeah.
like, by the end of this life, you can walk straight to heaven, like, oh, I'm in.
Yeah, yeah, that was the other thing. I remember asking Jesus, "Well, will I come back here? Will I see you? What
Mm,
is going to happen?" He said, "You'll be back here." Like he was rest assuring, I will be back to where I came from. That I'm not going to
mm,
automatically go to hell. Because I was like, "What if I mess up and I go to hell? That's terrible." And he's
mm.
like, "You're not going to do that." Because I was
Did,
worried.
did you feel, and I noticed that too, that you had a lot of fear, because at no point did he say that you're going to hell or there is a hell. He just was kind of insinuating things like you're not going to like it. Like at the end, when you
Yeah,
said, okay, what if I don't do this life? You're not going to like it. that could mean a lot of things,
Yeah, it
but
can.
you just assume, not to say assume, but that was your belief that it would be hell.
Yeah.
So so that makes one wonder as well. Um because there's people like you said who have NDEs who like they go into these heavenly realms, they go into other planets, they have this awesome like, fairy tale type situation. And then you have others who is like, it's so bad, I don't even want to remember what you told me. Like it was so bad.
Yeah.
So, it's there's no in between, and it's like what really is the truth, and that's kind of like what we're seeking right now is to try to figure
Oh
it
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you have a lot of ties, like no matter what, you are definitely connected to the other side. It sounds like there is a channel open. you
Yeah.
know
Oh, I
um,
agree.
you mentioning that you saw the universe in his eyes. I've heard this so many times with Jesus, and one of these people who do OBEs frequently said that there's a form of being, like a spiritual being, that when they take form, their eyes like flash lights and look like, different colors. Like there's something happening in their eyes. It's not just a stagnant eye. So I've heard that before, but in just for Jesus alone, I have heard people say that they literally met Jesus and there was a universe in his eyes. So
Yeah,
this is something that
it
has been
was.
repeated.
It
Amazing.
was. I mean, I remember being kind of far away from him, but it was like the eyes drew me in, and it was like when I ended up like really close to Jesus for just a minute and just looking at his eyes and just seeing them moving inside. It wasn't just an eyeball
Hmm.
like a normal eye. It had power inside, and just everything, all knowledge, all of it was very powerful and mesmerizing. And then it was kind of like, oh, I'm probably being weird, let me back off here, and get back to business, you know what I mean? Like, I
This is
remember.
what I mean. I love you in the spirit realm because you were just like, like who does this?
I know. I was like, I'm so embarrassing, I know it. And like, I literally, I about freaked out because Jesus said we don't talk like this here, we talk like this. And I was like, oh, you heard everything I said, like everything I
Was he
said. Oh my.
laughing? Because I heard he had a good sense of humor. So like, was he laughing? Because I can't imagine him not laughing.
Well, in that moment he didn't laugh, and or at least I don't think he did, because I like turned my consciousness, and I was just like, oh my god, like zip it, stop, like telling myself stop, stop thinking. I'm like, focus on Jesus right now, like he can hear every word, because I remember thinking, is this Jesus? I don't know. I mean, his hair, his eyes, I mean, his eyes, wow. And that's when I was just like staring. That's what caught me, because I was studying, like, he doesn't look like Jesus, but maybe he
Oh,
is.
oh yeah. See, look, now explain that. Because first off, he never said that he was Jesus. So like, I
No,
pay
he never
attention
did.
to that. And people, I've heard this many times where people just assume, and this being just smiles at them, and they just assume the whole time it's Jesus. So let's just keep that in mind. But what did he look like? What did you, as your previous life, expect him to look like, and what did he actually look like?
From what I remember, I think there was a famous picture that had come out before I had died. So and you could look it up online. I can't remember the name of it, but I know it's got like a brown background. He's got kind of longer hair. He's facing a side. That's what I was expecting, not what I was seeing. Um, have you seen, and I'm probably mispronouncing her name, Akane? She was 12 when she painted him.
So many people say she painted Jesus properly. Wow. Okay, I
Yeah.
know, I know.
And so when I saw that man, I'm like, your nose is different, your face is different, your hair. Yeah, I don't, you're not that tall. Like, I literally was thinking all these things, thinking in my head, he can't hear me. Nobody can hear me, but they all heard me. So I'm like embarrassed because I didn't know until he said, we don't talk like this here. And I was like, what? And then he said, we talk like this. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, like all of you can hear me. And I literally, oh, just be quiet,
But
his and
so
how
wait,
he
wait.
just
So
everything. Oh,
so to confirm, the Prince of Peace, just so I can make sure, because I put this up, you don't understand how many NDEers have said exactly what you're saying, that this is what he looks like.
yeah,
Um, and it also shows you why it's so important to really learn to just like find control. I mean, I'm still trying to figure this out, I swear to God. But like to meditate and to like control our thoughts, because besides the fact that our thoughts create on the other side, like as soon as you think something, you're there, or it's manifest.
yeah,
But everybody can hear everything. So it's like you
yeah.
better get control of those thoughts.
Yeah. And even when I was listening to my mother, I knew she was frantic. Like
Mhm.
she was washing dishes. She wasn't really thinking anything, but she was frustrated. And I was just like, oh, she's a loving person and I could feel that, but I also felt her like aggravation and I work too much, that franticness.
Mhm.
Um, so even as a spirit body, before I was born, I could listen, but she wasn't saying anything. Like she wasn't speaking in her head at the time. Like she was just frantic energy. Now I'm
Mhm.
maybe she was, and I wasn't there yet. I would, but that's because I was only able to watch her for a few minutes, like a minute before my sisters came out. They're my half sisters, but I consider them my whole sisters. But
Mhm.
when they came out, that's when I got pushed out from the kitchen and went straight back onto the road.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying, I think spirits can even hear the thoughts of people and things.
Oh
Because
yeah.
just like the demon, I heard him say she sees me, but he didn't move his lips. He was quiet.
Mhm.
He had that. He was still like that, when
Yeah.
he. So
Yeah, I mean, I dive deep, and I mean, a lot of indie ears, not even indie ears, people who are having OBEs, and it's becoming more common because people are teaching people how to get out of body. So just imagine, like, they are, themselves many times can feel other people's emotions, can hear their thoughts easy. Like, it's like some people say that we as humans have that ability. Like, in our body, we should be able to hear other people's thoughts,
yeah,
and we
I've
just
done
don't know
it
how
before
to.
on an accident. In eighth grade, I was annoying my friend and I didn't know it. And she said, shut up in her head. And I said, did you say shut up? And she said, not out loud. But that's
I
the
feel
only
like
time
I've
I
done
ever did it.
I feel like I've done that too, like without realizing. I'm telling you, it's one of those like innate like abilities that we just don't know how to tap into.
Yeah.
So it makes you really want to start protecting your thoughts. Like I mean, the more I read, I just start. I mean, not to say that I'm anywhere near getting close to that, but I just know that we need to master our thoughts, period. And then it goes into manifestation too. Like I mean, the more negative you think, your life just starts to go downhill because you're without realizing it, you're putting seeds that are going to start creating, go into fruition. So
Yep.
our thoughts are really everything. They truly, truly are. And then you have people who do OBEs who say that your thoughts become thought forms. Like if you sit there and think something long enough and hard enough, you can literally start creating beings of
Yeah.
energy. That's
Oh,
terrifying.
that did happen to me actually. So not only do I believe that these demons are conscious entities, but I also believe our energy can actually create one. Because I mean, as silly as it sounds, I know I was obsessed with this guy, and that's why I think it was a lesson that I carried from my previous life. How do you get over a man and love yourself? Like, how do you see your own worth? And I have since forgiven the man, forgiven myself, all that stuff. Okay, so I'm not attached anymore. But I remember meditating and going within into I went into my subconscious, and in that I actually saw like a Tasmanian devil spirit like going around, and it came from me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I created that.